let's see what today's tea is going to be. It's a gray, gloomy day and another day where I'm not exactly having the best time. So hopefully this is going to be something warm and comforting. Okay, so day 4. And again, I'm off on the advent calendar because I started on the 2nd. So today's the 5th. Let's see here. Turmeric chai. Okay, this is one I've actually had before. It was in the Halloween box that I got along with my advent calendar order. And I've actually haven't had this by itself before. I have, every time I've tried this tea, I've had it with Indian food because I'm scared of the turmeric being too potent and overpowering. So we'll see what I think of this by itself. I might have one of the leftover, that Kringle that I was showing yesterday with the almond paste, because it's been one of those days where I just need all the comfort I can get. So this is what it looks like. Oh, and I should report back on this one, the hibiscus. I didn't care for it at all. This is what this one looks like. It was too bitter and just not the flavor for me. I added a little bit of sugar to try and decrease the bitterness, but it did not work out. So I ended up just dumping it out. And the other half of this, I'm gonna see if someone else wants it. I don't know, or I might have to go in the trash. Just, you know, not all the flavors are gonna be for me, but yeah. Hopefully this one I can stand by itself. If not, then the second half of this I can just save for when I'm having Indian food. When it just like, I think, you know, because turmeric is in lots of the curries, so it just masks that flavor. Tonight's dinner is going to be super duper simple, very quick with basic ingredients. It is called, I think, kielbasa and rye croutons, but I'm going to be using sourdough bread. Is just what I have on hand. Instead of kielbasa, I'm going to be using this spicy sausage. I typically use, I guess, I don't know, kind of sort of like bratwurst, veggie bratwurst, but they didn't have that at the store, so I'm just going to kind of leave this in like chunks instead of completely breaking it down, because the kielbasa in the recipe is supposed to be diced in a way, so it'll all work out. And then we have a little bit of onion and cabbage. So I'm going to bake the bread and the cabbage together with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and then these two are going to be cooked together, and you're just going to throw it together with a simple vinaigrette. And so it's like a 20 minutes from start to finish. And I can't really link to the recipe because it's from Smitten Kitchen's new cookbook, Smitten Kitchen Keepers. I might be able to find it online, but yeah, I love quick recipes like this. So not only is the recipe very quick and easy, but the chopping itself can't be any simpler. You take the cabbage and you chop it into these big wedges, and then the bread, you can just tear it up into a couple inch size pieces. What's interesting about this recipe though is the pan. You oil the pan, but you also add salt and pepper to it, and then you put down the vegetables and bread, and then you add more olive oil, salt, and pepper on the top. So I think it makes it extra crispy, and like the bread, you know, turns into croutons that way. So I'm going to bake it for a couple of minutes, I think 5 or 6, and then I'm going to flip it and bake it for another 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, so the meat has been cooked. I have onions, but you can do it calls for shallots, chopped up fine, with olive oil, vinegar, and a little bit of mustard to make it like a sauce. And then this is done all at the same time. And I'm gonna toss it all in a bowl and be ready to eat. And here's dinner. It's basically a hot salad if you think about it. Instead of lettuce, there's cabbage, and it's delicious. It's kind of like a Polish Russian flavor to it, I feel like. With dinner done, I'm now ready to have dessert. So I didn't have one yesterday, so I get to have 2 today for dessert, which I'm not going to complain about that. So let me see here. There's 3. And I'm going to look in the back this time. Oh, I'm putting it the wrong way. So I can give you the description of these, because with them all being just chocolate covered, it's hard to figure out. Okay, so I got number 3, and sorry if you can hear the dishwasher running, but with dinner being so quick and easy, I was like, why not do the dishes while the oven is just, you know, cooking and, you know, baking it. So knock everything out and be done with it. Okay, so let's see. Let me find this one. Okay, so this one is a hazelnut truffle. And then the square, oh, caramel truffle. Okay, lots of truffles. And then yesterday's, not yesterday, the day before, that one that was the nougat was a chocolate, yeah, with light nougat and hazelnuts. It was really good. It's like a caramely, it almost reminded me like a Snickers, but like a fancy Snickers. So yeah, off to eat my truffles. Hi, BookTube. It's now around 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. I almost forgot what day it was. But I wanted to sit down and check in with you before I go on my last walk of the day. It's been pouring rain all day long and very dark, so I have, again, all my lights on as per usual, filming day or night. But as far as the books, I have finished an audiobook, The Good Good Pig by Cy Montgomery. She has written books on many different animals, and this one is, of course, about a pig who she named Christopher Hogwood. She got it as a little piglet when it was the runt of the litter and they didn't know if it would make it. And in fact, he made it many years, like well over a decade, longer than all of his brothers and sisters. She mentions how pigs are typically slaughtered around 6 months old, but you know, this one got to live to old age. So you just follow their journey, and Cy Montgomery and all of her books, they've never disappointed me. So if you're interested in any of the animals that she has written about, then yeah, I think you should give her a try. The other book I finished was Shots Fired by C.J. Box. Let me pull up. I have a cover for this one because we have the audiobook. I just didn't take a second to pull it up on my tablet before sitting down. But I do have one for Shots Fired. It's not much of a cover because it's in black and white. It's like a truck, like the wheel of a truck. But this is about a Wyoming game warden. Predominantly, it's a mixture of short stories. I've never read any short stories by C.J. Box. I've read a couple of novellas. I think he's had like some 0.5 books here and there in between his series, and this is a 14.5, even though there's many stories in here that are, written previously. But, yeah, with this, because it's like the mystery thriller with the short stories, for me, I feel like it didn't fully work, at least because I could have mysteries and thrillers to get pulled into the mystery, and I never fully could, because the longest story in here was around 30 minutes long, so I never really could like immerse myself in the story like I would like to with mysteries, because of that aspect. But still, the stories were good, for the most part. Of course, with all short story collections, there is some duds in the bunch. Not complete duds, but you know what I mean. Like it goes up and down with my rating of them. But yeah, it was still worth my time, and looking forward to moving on to book 15 in this series. I don't know what the current number is. Probably 20 something, but I know he's written several other series as well, but this was one I was starting with. So I finished that, and then I started The Last Light Breaking by Nick Jans. This is Living Among Alaska's Inupiat Eskimos. Inupiat. And this is his story of going from Maine to the northwest corner of Alaska. So like right on, let's see here. Here's Alaska, and it's like right on that little square right there. And he's living in Ambler, like right west of the Brooks Mountains. So you have the mountains here, and then his village he was living in is right there. And he talks about how he starts as a clerk at a grocery store. It was like the only store in the whole town. So I don't know. It's all-purpose kind of store, but the prices are exorbitant. And this is back in the 1970s and 80s, where he was talking about like for example, 12 eggs, a dozen eggs, cost I think it was like $2.50 or $3.50 back in the 1970s. So you can only imagine what they cost now. But he talks about his journey through becoming a teacher, and then the whole school system, which I am a little bit familiar with now, because like the previous Alaska book I read was all about a woman who went from California as a teacher to going to Alaska, and talking about how she was she was a teacher there before they had set up the Alaska School Board Institution, whatever that is called. So I was familiar with that when he was talking about it in this story, because he talks about how all of a sudden with the oil boom, that now they have money to put into all these different villages that are very isolated. There's no roads to any of them. You can only go by plane and sometimes boat when the river is open and if your village happens to be on a river kind of deal. And then also there's money to build these like state-of-the-art schools. Meanwhile, the children and families are living in sometimes in shacks and the teachers. He talks about the teachers, like some of them are living in, one of them was living in a repurposed, like, not cardboard box, but basically like a wooden box. So, like, there's no housing, a lot of these places. Like the housing they do have is taken up by the families, and there's no like construction company nearby that's going to build them anything. So anyway, this has been very interesting. This is his first book that he's written, and I've read several of his books. I think one of them was like along the Alaskan something. I don't know. I can't remember. But that one went way more into detail of his time of being a teacher and living in out in like in this area, like the tundra. And then I read the most recent one of his, A Wolf Named Romeo, or A Wolf Called Romeo. So this, I think, is my third or fourth book by him. But yeah, I didn't know it was his very first one. There's a picture of him in the back here. But he also talks about fishing and hunting and like the subsistence culture that the Alaskans have, and he talks about the like language, how there was actually when the schools. Oh, hi Fable. She's getting a little bit antsy. She's ready to go out, but he's talking about how when they started the school boards, how before these schools were that he was part of were instituted, how they had the kind of like the Native Americans in the lower 48, where they have these like religious institutes, or predominantly English people come in as well, who just taught from the Bible and didn't want the Native people to speak their language or dress like they would, anything like that. And so now the elders who are in this community who grew up in that kind of school system did not want, they protested against having, like, for example, like a music class, having a drum class that's very common, at least before this with the Alaskan culture. I think it's like drum dances and stuff like that. The elders of the community didn't want it to be put in place because they saw it as an insult to, how they were raised, kind of thing. So I thought that was really fascinating. So I am, let's see, 83 pages in, so I'm not going to finish it tonight because I typically go around like in a 45-minute to an hour walk, and it's 8 o'clock now, and I always cut off my reading at 9. That way I can rest my eyes and just kind of like de-stress and just like watch some booktube for the last hour. So yeah, this is probably going to be it for today, but I think 2 books down and half of another one is pretty good. But yeah, the other 2 books I had the good pick, and then this one I'd already started, so it doesn't necessarily count, because like even though I sometimes or often finish more than one book, I'm not reading them all in in one day unless they're really short. But anyway, I had a better day than I did yesterday. I had mentioned this morning I was a little bit grumpy, but it's something. It's like don't sweat the small stuff kind of thing. Like there's so much worse that could be happening that, my little like hiccups in the morning today, I'm all good. Like talking to you and like just getting all of my day and not obsessing over any of it and just letting it roll off my back. That's all I need. Anyway, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, BookTube.